Hi, my name is Patrick Reagan. Welcome to the Security, where we discuss security with a focus on how it affects the computer and the services and resources that the computer connects to. In Part 2, Security Fundamentals will define what is security and what makes up security. It covers some of the basic concepts in security, including CIA, AAA, defense in depth, segmentation and isolation, least privilege, need to know, separation of duty, zero trust, and gap analysis. It finishes with discussing how people, processes, and technology work together and what is the weakest link in security. For those who are going to take the A+ exam, there are practice questions at the end of the video. If you have not already, subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel. Security is often in the news. Everyone is at the risk of the data breach or cyber attack, no matter how small or large a company is. Even individuals are at risk. Security breaches are becoming more common, as shown by the sites listed on the screen. If you look through your emails, you can probably see cyber attack attempts every day. Cybercrime will cost business billions of dollars each year, and millions of data records are exposed worldwide each quarter through data breaches. Security involves the protection of information systems and the information processed, stored, and transmitted by these systems from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modification, or destruction. Since complete security can never be fully achieved, the focus of security is more often the process instead of the goal. As security is increased, convenience is decreased. Security costs money. Security includes physical security, which is security that allows access to a building, room, or data center. Network security is used to protect the network from unwanted users, attacks, and intrusion. Endpoint security protects the client computers and devices that are used to access your resources. Data security protects information. Identity management is used to protect how users prove who they are and how they access resources. Database security is used to protect databases which store, organizes, and retrieves data. Infrastructure security covers the physical equipment including servers, firewalls, routers, switches, and gateways. Cloud security includes the many services and resources that are hosted by third-party companies which are accessed over a TCP/IP network, including the Internet. Security for mobile devices is used to protect smartphones and tablets to access organization resources. Disaster recovery and business continuity planning, including creating plans, processes, and procedures that are used when a disaster occurs that causes an outage, a degradation, or a breach so that it can keep functioning. CIA represents a model that represents the core goals of an information security program: confidentiality, integrity, availability. Confidentiality is data is only available to authorized parties. When information is kept confidential, it means that it has not been compromised by other parties. To support confidentially, you need to have strong encryption. Encryption is often associated with confidentiality as it prevents unauthorized people to read a message or data. Strong authentication and stringent access controls. Confidentiality also includes the classification of data, whether you categorize the data and assign labels. The classification is used to determine the appropriate protection for the data. Some examples of labels are public, internal, use only, confidential, and strictly confidential. You can also have unclassified, restricted, confidential, secret, or top secret. Integrity is defined as the consistency, accuracy, and validity of data or information. Ensure that the data is protected against any authorized or accidental changes. Ensure that the data has not been tampered with or corrupted. Checksums and cryptographic hashes are associated with integrity, which can show if a file or message has been tampered with. Transaction logs and audit trails are used to track changes to data in systems so they can detect and correct any unauthorized or improper changes. A security program should include policies, processes, and procedures to manage intentional changes, including a change control process, as well as the ability to detect changes. Availability is ensuring that a resource is accessible to a user, application, or computer system when required. In other words, availability means that when a user needs to get to information, he or she has the ability to do so. Threats to availability come in two types. Accidental threats, including natural disasters, equipment failures, unplanned work, and honest mistakes by people. Deliberate threats are usually done by exploiting a system's vulnerability and includes a denial of service attacks, including overwhelming the system or cutting of a cable, and malware. To ensure availability, you should deploy redundant systems, use load balancers, establish business continuity and disaster recovery plans, perform a business impact analysis, establish recovery objectives, RTOs, and recovery point objectives, RPOs, for backups and recovery. Test failing over systems, and establishing service level agreements, or SLAs, for uptime and availability of service. AAA, AAA, is short for Authentication, Authorization, and Accounting. Authentication is the process of identifying an individual, usually based on a username and password. Authorization is the process of giving individuals access to system objects based on their identity. Accounting, also known as auditing, is the process of keeping track of users' activity while accessing the network resources, including the amount of time spent in the network, the services accessed while there, and the amount of data transferred during the session. Non-repudiation is the assurance that someone cannot deny the validity of doing something. Non-repudiation provides evidence of data's origin, authenticity, and integrity. It verifies that the sender that the information is sent and the recipient's identity to the receiver. If proper authentication, authorization, and accounting have been established, a person cannot deny their own actions. For example, a user is authenticated based on multiple factors before performing a transaction. A user signs an email using a private key that proves that the user is the only one that could have signed it, which proves that the message came from the user. Defense in depth is a strategy that leverages multiple security measures to protect an organization's assets. It is multi-layered and multifaceted. If one layer of defense is compromised, the deeper layers of security are there to maintain protection. You must have diversity of defense. Depth is commonly referred to as the castle approach because it resembles the layered defenses of a medieval castle. Segmentation divides a network into multiple segments or subnets, each acting as its own small network. It allows network administrators to control the flow of network traffic between subnets based on granular policies. Smaller networks allow you to set up security boundaries, which increase the number of security layers. Segmentation can prevent threat actors who have gained access to the network from moving around within the network. The safest network is one that is totally isolated from other networks. Least privilege is where each entity, such as a user or service, is granted the minimum system resources and authorizations that the entity needs to perform its job or function. Least privilege provides better security, minimizes attack surface, limits malware propagation, and provides better stability. Least privilege should be adopted as a default. It should be combined with need to know and separation of duties. Need to know grants access to entity that needs to access the data or resource. Need to know limits who has access, while least privilege also restricts what they can do, view, edit, execute, and so forth. Separation of duties splits tasks with potential for fraud or abuse across two or more individuals so that no single user should be able to act without supervision. Limit the number of privilege accounts. It needs to be periodically reviewed. Zero trust security means that no one is trusted by default from inside or outside of the network, and verification is required from everyone trying to gain access to resources on the network. This added layer of security has been shown to prevent data breaches. Since everything seems to be connected to everything, zero trust is a must. Sites connected to each other, users connected to the internet from anywhere, users using the internet for work and leisure while on or connected to the organization's network. Cloud services are hosted outside of the organization and allows many resources and services hosted by a third party. Contractors, consultants, and third-party personnel have access to the network resources and services. A gap analysis is used to identify security vulnerabilities. A gap analysis provides insights into a client's existing processes, how they use technology, and what security measures are in place. It will uncover areas of threat, which will allow you to determine if new technology or processes should be implemented, or current technology and or processes improved or reconfigured that will improve the security posture. To perform a gap analysis, you would determine the scope and desired state, define the current state, identify the gaps, and develop a security roadmap to reach desired state. All three elements, people, process, and technology, need to work in harmony for successful business operations or change management. People is actors who interact in a business process. Technology is the hardware and software used to facilitate business activities. Process is goal-oriented activities conducted by business. If one aspect is weak or not aligned with the others, it can impact the overall efficiency and effectiveness. The chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Security is only as strong as its weakest link. Too often, these weak links are the organization's employees. Bad actors usually target an organization's most vulnerable touchpoints to gain access to sensitive data through social engineering and phishing. Other common mistakes employees use is misconfigured systems, misdirected emails, shadow IT software and services, weak passwords and password sharing, and using public Wi-Fi networks. So how do you fix the weakest link? You establish policies and procedures to help direct people. You conduct regular awareness training. And remember, knowledge is power. Users, administrators, and end users have to be constantly reminded and trained on security. When dealing with security, don't make it too difficult for users for enhanced security. Users will rebel and try to find ways to work around it or not use it. Remember, you need to keep everything secure, but they also have a job to do. Security often costs money. You don't want to spend more money to protect something than what you are protecting is actually worth. Security measures have to be cost effective. Technology can be awesome, but don't forget the people and what they need to do their job. To get you thinking about security, you should play the game at the displayed site. Question: identify the following as confidentiality, integrity, or availability. Enforcing service level agreements is availability. Implementing a data classification schema is confidentiality. Ensuring encryption for data in transit is confidentiality. Utilizing a formal change in management is integrity. Perform a business impact analysis, or BIA, is availability. Using a checksum on a file is integrity. Question. In security, what does CII stand for? Answer. Confidentiality, integrity, availability. Question. In security, what does AAA stand for? Answer. Authentication, availability, accounting. Question. What is needed for non-repudiation? Answer. Proper authentication, authorization, and accounting have been established. Question. What is the best strategy in implementing an effective operational security posture? Answer. Defense in depth. Question. What is described if you have fences, card readers with a PIN to access systems, cameras, security cards, and encryption to protect your assets? Answer. Defense in depth. Question. When accessing a corporate network, you're required to authenticate to each application you try to access. Which of the following does this best represent? Answer. Zero trust. Question. To implement the best security practices for your company to reduce risk, you should. Answer. Encompass people, process, and technology. For more information, visit these sites. In summary, everyone is at risk of a data breach or cyber attack, no matter how small or how large a company is. Even individuals are at risk. Security involves the protection of information systems and the information processed, stored, and transmitted by these systems from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modification, or destruction. Since complete security can never be fully achieved, the focus of security is more often the process instead of the goal. CIA represents a model that represents the core goals of the information security program: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. AAA is short for authentication, authorization, and accounting, also known as auditing. Non-repudiation is the assurance that someone cannot deny the validity of doing something. Defense in depth is a strategy that leverages multiple security measures to protect an organization's assets. Least privilege has each entity, such as a user or services, granted the minimum system resources and authorizations the entity needs to perform its job or function. Zero trust security means that no one is trusted by default from inside or outside the network, and verification is required from everyone trying to gain access to resources on the network. A gap analysis is used to identify security vulnerabilities. Security is only as strong as its weakest link. Too often, these weak links are organizations' employees. Thank you for watching this video. The next video will be Security, Part 3, Physical Security. If you have not already, don't forget to subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel. Thank you.